When It Worked podcast, you're with your host Julian Leahy. Today I'm joined by the fantastic Chase Neely and Katrina Purcell. Welcome to the show, guests.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Are you excited? Let's play Jeopardy.
I'm thrilled.
Cue the music. All right, Chase. The categories are right now, which is something to do with books and novels which have some sort of time in them. Beatle Womania, these are women associated with the Beatles over time. Felonious monks that were rebels and maybe did something naughty. Labor Day for Hercules, I have no idea because I haven't read that one. Point the finger, we'll get to that. Round Midnight, that is also titles that may be songs, books, movies that have midnight, something to do with midnight in them. And we'll work out the other two once we get to them. Chase, what would you like?
Well, the intrigue's killing me, Julian. So let's do Labor Day for Hercules. Let's
do the mystery.
Yeah.
Okay. First one always takes a bit of time to load up, so bear with me on that.
No worries.
Or it just freezes completely. Okay, going great. Okay, we're frozen. Coming back to life. Here it comes. There we go. Hercules is often depicted wearing this animal skin. Killing the Nemean one was quite a labor. What animal skin does Hercules wear? Labor Day for Hercules.
Do we ding in? How do we ding in?
You just holler.
Oh, it's a lion skin.
Lion
What
skin.
is the skin of a lion?
Let's take a look. Chase, well done. 100
Good
points.
job.
Hercules. What would you like next, Chase?
Oh, let's go across the top. Felonious monks for 100.
Felonious monks for 100. In 1589, a fanatical monk named Jacques Clement assassinated this country's reigning king, Henry III. That's almost impossible. Jacques
It's got to be, right?
Clement assassinate. Oh, this country. Well, there you go. That's not impossible. With a name like that.
Is it England?
What is France?
Let's take a look. Katrina's jumped in, and it sounds pretty good. Jacques is most certainly French. What would you like, Katrina Purcell?
Let's try point the finger for 100.
Point the finger. Point the finger. The identification of the unique marks a gun leaves on a bullet is called ballistic this. No dusting required.
Ballistic fingerprint. What is the ballistic fingerprint?
That's right. I agree.
A fingerprint.
Thank you, Jake.
Well done. So there we go. These are all to do with finger. What would you like, Katrina?
I guess let's keep going across the top. Let's try right now for 100.
Right now for 100. As the story goes, this poem was written on December 24, 1822, on the way home with a turkey for dinner. As the story goes, this poem was written on December 24, Christmas Eve, 1822, on the way home with a turkey for dinner.
I have no idea.
I am stumped.
Any Christmas poems? And 1822,
Well,
that'd probably be in the United States, I'd imagine. Probably an American poem.
Right. Is that Robert Frost or Poe or somebody?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you're getting
Who
close.
is Poe? Which is the one that had the crow poem?
Poe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Quoth the Raven. But that's, I don't,
And I think you did throw that out there, Chase, didn't you?
I did. Is that
Okay.
right?
Could be.
Is that right?
Could be. Let's take a look. Time's up anyway. 'Twas the night before Christmas.
Oh,
A
I mean,
visit.
that makes sense.
Talk about
That makes more
a
sense.
bum steer. All right, now was that you,
glad we
Katrina,
don't
that
lose point.
you picked that category? Is that correct? So you've got
I picked that terrible one, yes.
yeah, that was a perfectly fine one. You've got another attempt. If you can get
Okay.
a correct answer, you'll stay in control. Otherwise, it'll go back to Chase.
Let's go to round midnight for 100.
Round midnight for 100. In 1861, this poet wrote about the midnight ride of Paul Revere.
We We should know that,
We
Katrina. That's
really
important to our
should know.
people.
This is
American history.
Are you smarter than a fifth grader? And Chase and I fail.
Oh, it's the poet. Who wrote that poem? I'm bad at poetry, apparently.
Poetry.
You know what? It could be one of the ones that you said previously. Paul Revere. I just imagine him riding on a horse. Is that what Paul Revere did? He rode somewhere on a horse.
He did ride on a horse into Boston. I know
Into Boston.
that.
Okay.
Oneth by land, twoeth by sea, right?
Do we want to have
who wrote it?
And the redcoats were coming.
You got lots of other information, but not who wrote it. All right, let's take a look. Longfellow.
Of course.
Of course. Chase, you're in control. What would you like?
Oh, I am. Great. Let's do Beat a Womania.
Womania
For
for
100.
100. Lady
Close out the
Gaga
100.
was among the stars who joined her new plastic band for a 2010 rendition of Give Peace a Chance.
Plastic Man.
Probably the most famous and notorious female to be associated with the Beatles.
Yoko Ono? Is that who we're talking
Would
about?
have to be. The extremely talented, just kidding, Yoko Ono for
Good job, Chase.
100. Chase, well done. You're in control.
We're jumping down to the 500s, Julian. Let's do it. Right now, 500.
Right now,
Whoa.
500. Unable to sleep, Longfellow knocked out the wreck of this ship between midnight and 3 a.m. Famous shipwreck, probably in the 1800s.
Yeah, or even before.
Just a novel or a poem, probably, not even a real ship.
The,
Oh, what do you got, Katrina?
No, I was gonna go with the Titanic, but maybe
The
it's
Titanic.
not a real ship.
He wrote the Paul Revere
A
poem,
little
right?
bit
Same
before
guy?
the Titanic, or even the Titan submersible. Probably before that. Time's up. Let's take a look and keep things moving. The Hesperus. Anyone heard of that?
Of course.
Never heard of that one.
No.
Chase, you're
Let's-
still in control.
Let's do Beat a Womania.
Beat a
Womania. I'm going
It's
to
a
get it
mouthful.
soon for
Yeah.
500.
500,
Yeah, let's do it.
okay. Before she was married to Eric Clapton, George Harrison wrote the song Something About Her. I was just speaking to my wife's a Beatlemaniac. She was telling me this.
Julian, can you be on my team for that question then?
Look,
Yeah.
I'm not
Where's
the...
your wife?
It went in one
Can
ear
we
and out
go
the
to
other,
France?
unfortunately. But we did watch
I have no idea.
George Harrison got killed, and he was very upset about when Eric Clapton stole his woman, Patty Boyd.
No.
Yeah, no, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
All right, Katrina, you're in control. What would you like?
All right, let's go with point the finger for 500.
Point
Let's
the
try it.
finger for 500. We're going big. Elmira Corning Regional Airport is one gateway to this scenic region.
What is
Finger
the
Lake.
the Finger Lakes? Yeah. Oh, Chase got it.
Chase got it.
If that's right.
If it's right, we both said the same place.
The Finger Lakes is right.
Hey.
Just mixing things up, putting the points on first. Chase, you're in control.
All right. How about Round Midnight for 500?
Round midnight. James Leo Herlihy wrote this 1965 novel about Joe Buck, who tries to make it in New York as a stud for hire. Oh, I know this one. I can give you clues for this one. It's also a movie from the 70s.
Oh.
Oh.
It sounds like it should be Midnight Man or something.
Starring John Voight. It's Midnight something.
Midnight Racer?
There's also one of the village people dressed up as this type of person. It's a job.
Midnight Police?
There's only how many in the village people?
Yeah, I'm like, midnight construction worker?
We're out of time.
Midnight Cowboy.
Oh,
Did I get it?
Should we give it?
Chase, that was pretty close.
Well, I'll give it. I'm feeling charitable.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Did not do well at
Chase,
Jeopardy.
what would you like?
Let's do Labor Day for Hercules. 500.
Labor Day for 500 for Hercules. Hercules hunted down a brass-hooved stag that was sacred to this goddess.
Diana.
Goodness me.
Oh. Yeah, that might be right. Or Artemis. It's one of the two.
You got to pick one, Chase. You can't name
Diana.
off Diana. And do you want to have a guess, Katrina? Any idea?
You should
No.
guess Artemis.
Oh, I'll guess Artemis.
Okay. Diana.
Hey!
Chase,
job, Chase.
how do you know all this?
I read a lot of Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series. It's helpful.
Okay.
Felonious mugs for 500. How about that?
Felonious monks. As the first Grand Inquisitor in Spain, this Dominican authorized torture. Goodness me.
Oh.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Here we
That's what it was. The Spanish Inquisition. So, does anyone know the notorious monk associated with this? I don't.
I do not.
We've got 8
No.
seconds left. I don't think we're going to get it. Let's have a look. Torquemada, of course. That's 500. That's why that's quite an obscure question. You got the previous one. You're still alive, Chase. What would you like?
All right. Let's do right now for 400.
Right now for 400. For a magazine story, this author of westerns once did his day's writing on a traffic island on Sunset Boulevard.
Louis L'Amour. Why
Louis
not?
L'Amour. Let's take a look. Louis L'Amour.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey,
That's impressive.
how about that?
Chase, I'm starting to think you're a bit of a Jeopardy gun. What would you like?
Yeah, he won.
Listen, let's do Beetle Woman. Oh, I was so close for 400.
400.
Womania.
Beatlemania. Half of what I say is meaningless. John Lennon sang on Julia, which bears the name of this woman in his life.
I don't know.
Probably is it his first wife?
I'm not a Beatles person.
Julia. Half of what I say is meaningless. His mother. Okay.
Oh, aw,
What I
that's
thought it was
sweet.
gonna be. I should have guessed that. Getting gunshot. Julian. All right.
Katrina, I think you're in charge now.
Okay, let's go with Point the Finger for 400.
Point the finger for 400. Close basketball shot from the tip of the hand into the basket.
Finger roll.
That's the one.
Oh, nice.
I only know that one because of my son. Chase, you're back at control. What would you like?
Let's do Labor Day for Hercules. 400.
Labor Day for Hercules, 400. Hercules went to the ends of the earth to get these. Maybe he wanted his tart tatin to taste just right. Some sort of food.
What are
I think it's some sort
cranberries?
of apple.
Cranberries
apples
or
of-
apples? The golden
Apples,
apples. I will have to give that, I think. 400. What would you like?
No, let's go back to the monks for 400.
Oh, the monks.
Felonious monks. AKA Saloth Sar. He was a novice monk in Cambodia before becoming infamous for killing fields.
Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
He is a felonious monk.
Must have been working with old Pol Pot.
Oh.
I don't know. Do you know, Katrina?
These are tough
I have
questions.
no idea.
I mean, really obscure. It was Pol Pot himself.
You got it right.
Wow.
I should have just said what Julian said.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, well, that was.
It was the only Cambodian I really know. Katrina, no, Chase, you're in control still.
Oh, let's go to the midnight one for 400.
Midnight for 400, round midnight. The book gift shop in Savannah, Georgia offers souvenirs associated with this John Berendt bestseller. Something midnight. I don't know if it's going to come up, but do you remember there was also a book and a movie about a Turkish prison, and the guy was stuck in the prison and he escaped? Do you remember that one?
I don't remember that one.
No.
Midnight Express. I don't know. I don't think that's this, but that could come up. Let's take a look. Time's up. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Well,
that's a great title.
These are tough questions.
That's a great title.
Katrina, you are in control.
Okay, let's go with point the finger for 300.
Point the finger for 300. Get your finger answer ready. The lanula is the small white crescent moon-shaped part of one of these.
What is it? Fingernail?
Fingernail.
Oh,
Let's
that's a great
take
guess.
a look. Well done, Katrina. 300.
All right, it was getting pretty sad there.
Still time.
Still time to go on an absolute monumental roll about Felonious monks.
Oh gosh. Okay, let's go with right now for 300.
Right now for 300. He wrote the candy-colored Tangerine Flake Streamline Baby in one night for Esquire magazine. That's a mouthful. I've never heard of that. He wrote the candy-colored Tangerine Flake Streamline Baby in one night for Esquire magazine.
What a weird title.
Well, and what a weird spelling of the title.
I
would almost think it was a Kardashian.
Well, you know what? It's because it's so weird. I'm thinking it could be somebody like, who's that avant-garde artist that occasionally wrote for magazines and he used to have like grey hair all over his face and sunglasses.
We talking about Warhol?
Yeah, someone like that, or some other weird beatnik like.
What about
Hunter S. Thompson, or it'll be some.
What about that guy? His last name was an animal, right?
Right. Animal.
Wolf.
Wolfman Jack.
Tom Wolf.
Okay.
Ted.
If you've got anything close to that, I'll give it to you. Whoa, Tom Wolf! Well done, Katrina.
That was good.
Honestly, I thought you were barking up the wrong tree.
You thought I was animaling up the wrong tree.
You were
just leaving the back.
Well done. What would you
Okay,
like?
let's go with Round Midnight for 300.
Round Midnight for 300. Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie tells of the post-colonial era in this nation where Rushdie was born.
Where was he born?
Interesting.
Rushdie.
I'll give you a clue.
That last name is not...
No, it's not what you think by his last name, but it was known as... It's going to give it away, but it was settled by India for quite a long time. Sorry, you
Was it India?
Okay, everyone can have 300 points.
Yes. You should get some too, Julian. I think you should give yourself 300 for that.
Okay, it's supposed to be settled by England.
England.
And it was known as the Raj period. Okay, so Katrina, you're still in control due to host incompetence.
Let's try the Felonious monks.
The Felonious monks for 300. Friar Vicente de Valverde gave Atahualpa the choice of death by fire or garrote. He chose the latter, and this empire ended. So,
what is fire?
He chose garrote.
Which empire was it? Some sort of maybe either Latin American or Spanish.
Empire.
Yeah.
Holy Roman Empire?
Could be.
Okay.
Could be. Time's up. Let's take a look. The Incan Empire. Interesting.
There you go.
Wow.
Okay.
Now, you've just got one incorrect. Yes, you're still in control, I think, Katrina.
Okay, let's go with Labor Day for Hercules for 300.
Maybe I'm wrong there. Labor Day for Hercules, 300. For his last labor, Hercules had to go to Hades and subdue this canine that had a dragon for a tail.
Cerberus.
Wow. I'm just 100%
Very
certain you've
impressive.
got this. Well done.
Yeah. He was
Severus.
very confident.
It's a vitamin brand in Australia, I think.
Listen, I
One,
promised
two-
you I'd be confident, Julian. I didn't promise accuracy.
Wow, you're doing very well. And what would you like, Chase? Neely?
I only have 2 more chances to get this word right. Beatlemania for 300.
I think that is
I think
the
that was-
correct pronunciation.
I did it.
Buddy
Yeah, that
Clark's
was good.
1947 chart-topping song "Linda" was written about the future wife of this Beatle when she was 5 years old.
Is that Paul McCartney's wife?
Yes.
Has to be. Paul McCartney for 300. Well done, Chase. You're gonna
Right now, 200.
right now 200. H. Rider Haggard is said to have penned King Solomon's These in a little over a month to back up a boast he'd made. And this was also a movie, and it was very much in the vein of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it was starring a guy with blonde hair that was like a soapy star. King Solomon's... What do you have in Raiders of the Lost Ark? You have lots of treasures and gold and stuff, and maybe diamonds. So this
Right.
is a place where you might find
Jewel-
those things in their raw form, perhaps.
Mines?
Mines?
Let's take a look at King Solomon's Mines. Well done, Chase.
It's good hints, Julian.
There was some pretty
Yeah,
strong
they're
hints.
top notch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
strong hint.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
let's get rid of the felonious monks.
Felonious
Yeah.
monks
Done
for
with them.
200. John de Roma is one of the brutal monks in the 16th century Protestant book of these people who died for their faith.
Martyrs.
The Book of Martyrs. Well done, Chase. You spent a bit of
job.
time in Sunday school as a kid.
Yeah,
I
that's
reckon.
right.
Yes.
It's paying off.
It's paid off finally. And what would you like?
Let's do Labor Day for Hercules.
Labor
Finish that
Day
one.
for Hercules. Hercules used 2 rivers to clean these Augean structures. Augean, what does that mean?
don't know.
Augean.
I
Is
don't.
it gold? AU for gold?
right?
I'm not sure. Augean,
Structures.
or is it? What's the star sign? I got a feeling it's something to do with like sheep or something.
Oh,
I don't know. Look, I'm just.
Sheep.
like looms?
I don't
Like-
know. Don't take that as a clue. That's just pure stream of
Speculation?
consciousness dribble.
I have no idea.
Let's take a look. The stables.
Stables.
Oh.
It was something to do
okay.
with animals, anyway.
That's good.
Are you still in control? Yes, you are, Chase, because you got the gold mine one.
All right. Point the finger.
Point the
200.
finger for 200. After dining on finger foods, dip your digits into one of these to clean off.
A finger bowl.
Yeah.
Finger bowl! Katrina! Well done! Katrina's
I'm trying
back
over
in
here.
control. You need a-
All right, let's do Round Midnight for 200.
This poem begins once upon a midnight dreary.
Oh.
wonder, weak and
we
weary.
Should know that.
Well, Chase has got the second verse. It's going to be rattling around in his cranium.
I don't know who wrote it. I don't know what poem it is.
Once upon a midnight dreary.
That does sound like Poe, doesn't it?
It does sound like Poe.
Oh, it's Quoth the Raven, nevermore.
It is Quoth the Raven? Oh my
It
gosh.
is. Well done. I knew it was there.
Good thing we talked about that earlier. That was
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Poe. Oh, well, how about
came
this
in
one?
handy.
200. Ringo Starr wed first wife of Maureen Cox in London in 1965. She'd been born in this Mersey River city in 1946. So the Mersey River, do you know what area that is in England?
No idea.
No idea.
It's close. It's pretty much where the Beatles originated from.
So Liverpool?
That's what
But
I
is
would.
that where she's from?
That's what I would guess, but it could also be a nearby city. But let's take a look. Liverpool's correct. Well done,
Nice.
Chase. Fantastic effort, Chase. You have won
Yay,
and performed
Chase.
very well, and you've qualified for the champion round. Should you wish to come back, you will be playing
Wow.
against the champions for a cash prize. Well done, Chase, and also well done, Katrina, for being such a great sport and lots of fun. All right, Chase, let's get down to business. Your
All right.
mission to amplify the messages of brands. Tell us a bit about that and your journey to becoming a personal branding guru.
I love that you put it that way because I cringe whenever I hear the word personal branding guru.
I have that effect on people, Chase.
No, it's so good because I think that when you think about personal branding, there's a lot of people out there who are wanting to take personal brands money to tell them exactly what to do over the next steps of their career. And we have learned over our years of experience that the best thing to do is try a bunch of things and see what works. So there's not a proven system or a proven step-by-step guide except to say that you have to persist. If you have a message worth sharing, you have to persist. And you keep trying and you keep trying until you get that thing that's going to launch your personal brand into the stratosphere. And that's what we help personal brands do. We come up with ideas to help them along the way to say, here are things that you might try. But at the end of the day, it's not an exact science. Marketing is a science, but it's not an exact one. And so we help them continue to run tests, measure the results, and then iterate those tests.
You know, Chase, some people think personal branding is about getting some T-shirts and stationery printed out. Do you want to just talk about what it is exactly that people need to do? What is the personal brand?
It's a great question because you're exactly right. It's been kind of democratized and means a lot of different things. And I think the most ironic thing about personal branding is it's not about you, the personal brand. It's about the audience. It's about how you can help the audience. And the personal brands that I've been privileged to work with that have been most successful, remember that they're there to help. Their mission, their message offers something to the core audience. And so the core audience keeps coming back to them for the answer to that question. And so when you think about building your personal brand, you can start in a lot of different places, but we always say start with your core message. What's that one sentence of how you help your target customer? Know who your core customer is, and then know what your core values are, because an inauthentic personal brand won't last. So you have to have those core values to make sure that you are just being clear with what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do in an effort to build your personal brand to help your core audience.
Chase, is there any examples that sort of come to mind of people that you've worked with where they sort of, you know, they're trying to get themselves out there, but they're not really sure, they're not clear on their messaging, and then sort of narrowing down on their messaging and really building a brand around that? Can you give us like an example to sort of help people understand what we're talking about?
Absolutely. And I think that most personal brands that come to us would say, my message is for everybody. I help everybody. And when you come in to help everybody, what ends up happening is you help nobody because nobody finds you because it's just noise in the crowd. But when you're able to identify who that core audience is, and we help personal brands do this all the time, when you're able to identify that core audience, you're able to go deep within a niche. And from that depth, you're able to get breadth later on. But you have to go deep in the niche first. We worked with a guy who had great success in business. He was an executive at a large company. And that was the struggle. That was the tension that we had in that relationship, was to say, my message is for everybody. Yeah, but who's it for today? Who is that message for today, so that we can get some just market fit, really. And then from that market fit, you grow to talk to everyone. And he's been able to do that now, and is having some success along the way as well. So,
Chase, one thing people do is they decide to write a book, which I think is a great idea to sort of put yourself out there as an expert in a particular subject area. But do you ever see cases where people don't quite have their messaging right, should they use the book to develop their message? Their personal brand, or should they go ahead and write a book first off the bat?
Man, it probably depends on the situation. I know that's a cop-out answer, but I have seen authors who start with a book even when they don't have a clear idea of who they want to talk to immediately. One author that I worked with, he's a New York Times bestselling author, and his first book was a general market success. And so he was able to go in and find that general market and continue to build until he finally got to his one sentence a little later down the road. And that's one way that you can explore that. I would say that's an uncommon way. Really, things like podcasts are a great way to just talk out the things that you know, the things that are important to you. And then you're able to go into the book with a clearer idea of what that one sentence is going to be. For us, we started a company in 2018, and we didn't have a clear picture of exactly what we were going to do. So we were Leverage Creative Group for the first several years. And then we finally said, if it's good for our clients, it's good for us. We have to get to our one sentence. And so in the early part of this year, we transitioned to leverage brands because that's what we do. That's our sentence. We leverage brands. We help them take what's there and push that further to amplify that message.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time people get paralyzed by not knowing what to do. Like you said, just getting up to the plate and having a few at-bats helps you really work out what you should be doing and what you're talking about. So you talk about going on podcasts and just start to put stuff out there and don't worry about it being terrible, because we all start out that way, and just finding clarity that way. What are some of the mistakes that you see people make, in terms of personal brand?
Well, I think you touched on one right there, Julian. It's that paralysis. It's got to be perfect before I put anything out. And it just paralyzes you from making any momentum forward. The more that I'm doing this, the longer that I've been in this space, what I'm seeing is it's not nearly as much about quality of content, because all the content of great thought leaders and great personal brands is great. It's more about the consistency of content. So you have to be out there. You have to be delivering content, and they're not all going to be hits. I mean, think of a book publishing company. They publish dozens, if not hundreds of books a year, and they're looking for a hit rate of 30%. Baseball, if you hit 300, you're doing great. So your content's not all going to be great, and you won't have a chance to hit on the great stuff until you put it out there. One more story. We work with an author who's written over 200 books. And the book that launched his career into the stratosphere was his 125th book.
Incredible.
That was published by a traditional publisher. So they kept seeing the promise. They kept seeing, and that book sold 60 million copies. So you never know what's going to hit. You just have to be willing to take the steps to continue to put things out there. And the more that I'm willing to do that by coming on podcasts like this and playing Jeopardy games and doing, having fun with you guys, the more that I'm confident we can help more people, because it's that paralysis that keeps you from doing it. And then the other end is there's the paralysis side, but the other side of that coin is you release stuff before you're ready. Because like I said before, the bar is great content. Like to penetrate the market at all, you have to have great content. So make sure the content's great. And once it's there, once you're comfortable with it, get it out there.
100%. Excellent. And Chase, what can people expect if they go over to Leverage Brands and they maybe want to get into your world? Do they have a chat with you? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's right. I've opened up some time on my calendar for you guys who are listening to this podcast. Just go to leveragebrands.co/pod and you can book some time with me right there. And I'd love to talk with you about the challenges you're facing in your personal brand or the brand that you're building in your company. And we can talk through the ways that we could continue to amplify that together. It's free time for me. I'm not charging anybody anything for that, but I'd love to talk with you guys.
Wonderful, yeah, and it's it's so important, and it takes you such a long time to do without speaking to somebody, and this is one of the things where I really think you need to have a coach or a professional work on it, because it's something that can take people 5 years to sort of distill down actually their message, and if you speak to somebody, they know exactly how to break it all down and find out the people you're trying to reach, and help you really get the clarity that you need. So personal branding and getting your messaging right, that's one of the most important things. So if you are in a state of just confusion, not sure what to do, have a chat with Chase and start working on getting your brand sorted out. Thanks, Chase.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. The URL is in the show notes, by the way. And let's talk to Katrina. Hi, Katrina.
Hi there.
Highly qualified MBA person. And what have you been up to as a former corporate person, and then sort of finding out that maybe you were meant for something else? Do you want to tell us about that little pathway that you went on?
Sure. So I love to say that my career has been a jungle gym, not a ladder. Because I think a lot of people talk about climbing the corporate ladder, and there's this conception that you kind of have to, get a higher title every single year. And I think that that's not always the case. So I started my career in media. I did post-production for the Discovery Channel. And then I did production for Bloomberg. So I worked in news for years. And then slowly moved into project and program management. And I do think that we tend to go to the things, my husband would say we revert to the mean, but you tend to go to the thing where your skills are really good. And so I've always been super organized, and I've always liked to get the most out of people. I'm an oldest child, and so there's always that element of getting people to do things that you want them to do through the power of sort of influence, which is a really good project management trait. And so I went to my MBA in a somewhat unconventional way as an executive. So it's a Saturday program that Columbia offers. You go to school every single Saturday for 2 years while you're working full time, in most of the time a fairly stressful job. And so that experience was absolutely amazing because it opens your doors to so many different people who are at all different stages. I think our classmates ranged in age from 28 to 45. And so there's just such a breadth of different careers and different life stages. And I decided after that I wanted to actually move from media into what I call pure play technology. And I did that about 6 months before the pandemic hit, which was brilliant timing. A lot of people may not have thought that, but for me, it was great. I actually moved into a chief of staff role as a result of some shuffling that happened because of the pandemic. We eventually IPO'd that company. What an amazing experience. Got to go and be there when we rang the closing bell at the NASDAQ. And then went and helped a tech company raise a Series B funding this year during a very difficult funding year, and thought, you know what, actually, wouldn't it be more exciting to go out and help companies that may not have access to the right resources at the right cost that they can afford? And so started my company in June. And I'm now working with sort of seed to Series C tech companies, doing fractional COO work, and then also working with nonprofits that are trying to grow, that might be at a stage where they're having an impact, but they really want to take that impact to the next level. And so it's been really fun. I think starting your own company is definitely a roller coaster, but it's been really rewarding and exciting.
And speaking of messaging, on your website, it's a really great. What do we call that statement that just sums up your messaging perfectly? Empowering tech startups to scale efficiently, where you just know exactly what Katrina is doing. So what sort of startups are you working with, Katrina?
So I mostly work with B2B SaaS. I have had a few really early stage companies reach out that are being started by women. And so I work in a lot of women's communities. And so in that case, I typically will work with them no matter what their niche is, just because I want to be able to provide them help and answer questions and help them think about how to start to raise money and what that looks like. But generally B2B SaaS. And oftentimes I work with companies when they're moving from SMB clients upstream to enterprise clients, because enterprise clients require a level of scale that typically they haven't had to do before. So when they're helping SMBs, they just keep adding people.
Yeah.
And when you bring on an enterprise client, they expect a level of automation. They expect a level of consistency. They don't want that you had to hire 10 people to implement them. They want to know that this can, scale the way that it needs to. And so typically those are the companies that I work with the most.
It must be difficult, when some of these smaller startups start to get busy, but they just don't have any of the processes in there, and you just basically have to knock everything down and rebuild a lot of things. Do you find much resistance from these kind of whiz-bang founders?
I do get a lot of resistance. I do think probably 50% of my job is therapy for founders. I think oftentimes when you're at a specific growth stage, the struggle is that the people who got you from 0 to 5 million are probably not the people who are going to get you that next 5, 10, 15 million. And I think part of what I do is counsel people that that's okay. You can decide that you're the kind of person who works best in the circus, firestorm startup, everyone does everything, and that's your brand, that's who you are, and that's who you want to be, and that's fine. There are other people who work really good at creating a process and building the process, getting people on board to function in that process. And then there are some people who would prefer to come into a company where the process is already created and they're just executing it, right? And so I think Chase mentioned this earlier, but also just understanding yourself and where you like to be and where you thrive, I think is so key in sort of understanding, and sometimes for a founder, when it's not their time to lead their company anymore, when it's time to step back and let someone who has a skill set that's more aligned with the growth stage of the current vision of the company, to ensure that the company can actually achieve what it can. So in some cases, it's talking founders through that, which can be difficult. And requires a lot of hand-holding and in some cases, a little pushing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the type of people that can get a startup off the ground. They love the chaos and the excitement, and it's a totally different thing that they need to become, I guess, to go to the next level. Is there any stories you can tell us? Some of the challenges, perhaps some things that didn't work, some that did, without giving too much away, I suppose.
Without giving too much away, yes. So I think oftentimes the struggle is the ego. And so I think there's something to be said for people who are self-aware enough to know that their ego is getting in the way. So I think there's been a few startups that I've helped where the startup hasn't achieved everything they could achieve because the founder either hasn't put trust in his team or her team, or they're not stepping back when they should. They're hiring people who know what they're doing, but they're not actually trusting them to do their job. And I think in that case, you can kind of say to yourself, well, but I'm the one who really believes in this. But once you've hired a team and that team is going to bat for you and they really believe in the mission of the company, you have to put that trust in them. And you have to let them take it where they think it needs to go. And you have to listen to them. You hired them for a reason. The converse of that is I'm working right now with a nonprofit where the CEO really trusts his team and he empowers them and he believes that they understand his 10X vision. And, part of being a good CEO is being able to impart that vision, but understanding that the execution falls on your team. So the path to get to that audacious goal that you set is really on them to come up with, because they're the ones who are going to have to do the hard work to get there. It's your job as a CEO to provide the vision that inspires them and to take the blockers out of the way. But it's not your job to say, no, I don't like that copy on this, or no, I think we should actually market it this way. You hired someone who knows that skill, who has that skill, and you should trust them in the process.
Yes, the ego is always a difficult one to get over. I think that you're either going to listen to people or you're not. It's kind of hard to convince people to be less of a dick, so to speak. Katrina, how do you interact with people, and what stage companies do you mostly sort of work with?
So I say seed to Series C, although I've been working with a few pre-seed companies. I am super active on LinkedIn. I'm also very active in the New York City, startup scene. I'm at a lot of networking events. I do have my website, and on my website, you can contact me to set up some time as well. And I also I do mentoring for women who are in tech and who are either thinking about starting their own company or who are trying to make the most of their corporate journey. And so I'm also really happy to connect with anyone who may not have a company that needs help, but maybe they need, a little bit of guidance, or they're looking for a community. Because I think that that sense of community is so important. And so I participate in a lot of groups in New York that are providing that as well.
Yeah, it's great. I'm starting to see women in tech, actually. I mean, I heard about it, maybe 5 years ago, but I never saw anyone. But now I'm seeing some women coming up with their own startups, and it's really cool because they've got a very different way of team building and communicating. And so it's definitely there's definitely a spot for them. So maybe you are one of these people that would like to speak to Katrina. I think she might be fantastic to speak to. Thank you so much, Katrina and Chase.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No worries, that was a blast. And I've put your all your stuff on the show notes. So if anyone wants to follow up with our wonderful guests, please do so. Add them to all of your social media and all that stuff. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Katrina and Chase.